Hi everyone. So today we are going to be doing some Anthurium repotting and chatting while we do that. Primarily today we're going to be chatting about how the Anthurium have been doing, but also I have some life updates to give you guys because I honestly just feel like my whole life has been flipped upside down in the last month, and this whole last 2 weeks has just been a nightmare. You guys are probably getting this video a day late, if not a week late, because of it. So I will fill you in on that as well. But a lot of these Anthuriums, well, to be honest with you, I thought all of my Anthuriums, with the exception of I think one or two, were going to need to be repotted today. I think we just need to do the 5 that I pulled out. There's one other one that we might do, just depending. I also think that other one, I wasn't sure if I had an appropriate sized pot for it, but these ones definitely need to have it done, primarily because they are all so massively root bound. I mean, hopefully you can see those roots climbing out of the bottom of this pot for this one. And then we do have one that I just noticed, and I didn't notice this when I watered it the other day, which once again, you guys, because you know, every time I try to film a repotting video, by the time I actually can film it, I've recently watered everything, so everybody's very wet today, and we're gonna have to compensate for that. But the last time I watered this one over here, they're all in clear pots, so I look at their roots and inspect every time I water. Everything looked fine, but now when I picked it up today, it looks like there might be some rot starting in there, which has totally thrown me for a loop. So this one's not even crazy root bound, but because I'm seeing that, I wanna get it out and see if that's actually what's going on, get it trimmed off, and get it potted back up. And another reason that we were dealing with just water plants today goes back to the whole, I feel like my life has been flipped upside down. I've been trying to film this video for 5 days, all right, you guys? And 5 days ago, things weren't soaking wet, but we're just gonna make do. So I think we're gonna start with this one since it is just taking up the most space right now amongst everybody that is out here. And I do have, let me just try to get a little bit more organized here. I do have behind me somewhere some of my epiphyte mix mixed up already. Dang, this thing's heavy. Oh, and the only workouts I've gotten in this week were arm workouts. So picking up heavy things right now is not entirely fun for me. But this is my epiphyte mix. If you are not familiar with my soil mixes, as always, I will place a link in the description below for you guys to that video. It's just a short little, I think it's like 10 minutes long video, talking about my soil mixes, how I make them, what plants I use them for, all those good fun things. But I do like to use my epiphyte mix for my Anthurium so far. Now, a lot of these Anthurium are not in my straight epiphyte mix for various reasons. So I will talk about each one and what kind of mix it's in as we go. This one that we're doing right now, so first of all, this is one of my favorite Anthuriums, and just a reminder for anybody who's new here, these Anthuriums that we're gonna be repotting today, I have only had them for, some of them for exactly at like a year, and some of them for like 10 or 11 months. So that's why I wanna give you guys an update on how they're doing, but a lot of them are still in the substrate that they came in, or kind of a combination of the substrate that they came in when I bought them and my substrate, and I will explain more, like I said, once, like as we're going along with each plant. But this is one of my favorite Anthurium that I own right now. This is my Anthurium Dark Crystal Mag by Carla Blackier. Absolutely love this plant. All of the plants that you're gonna see today were purchased on Palm Street. If you are not familiar with Palm Street, I have a link down below for you. You do get a credit towards your first purchase if you download using the link down below. This is not actually a Palm Street sponsored video today, but I'm just telling you, like, you're gonna see these plants, you're gonna think they're gorgeous, and you're gonna wanna go on Palm Street, and welcome to your new addiction. But I got this one in particular from Redland Botanicals. Love their plants so much. And the mix that it was in, I don't even know what all was in it. It's got the very large chunky perlite though, that a lot of people like to use. I don't particularly like to use this grade of perlite just because I feel like, I don't know, I always feel like it just rises to the surface over time, and the smaller perlite I feel like stays in place better throughout the substrate. That's just my personal opinion and preference. You guys, I try not to I'm trying to let the cats roam today. they're already getting crazy because I don't film in here that often. And when I do, they're like, what is happening? So we may have kitty interruptions. I'm just warning you right now, Scooter's scooting over to where I am, which I need to splice in some footage for you if I can manage it, of what this looks like from behind me, because I have to do some crazy stuff to be able to sit here and film for you, but it's so much easier to sit and film and I can get the plants closer to you. But Scooter, I have to have cabinet doors open to do this. And Scooter's trying to get in the Tupperware cabinet right now. So we'll see if he's gonna be able to stay out here or not. But back to this, the substrate came in, I'm gonna start getting it out of its pot while I'm telling you more. He's in the cabinet. Scooter, hey. Oh well, I guess he can just hang out in there as long as he's not banging stuff around and making a lot of noise. But the substrate this came in, absolutely loved it. Don't know exactly what all's in it. So I didn't want to completely strip the plant of the substrate when I repotted it the last time. So this has only been repotted once before. It was in just a little, one of those kind of really short 4-inch pots. When I originally got it, I took it up to this 6-inch pot and it has just grown super rapidly. And so I kind of just did I took all the substrate, really? Hold on, you guys. Okay, he's out of the cabinet, but I'm still letting him just roam around, so hopefully he doesn't come back and try to get in again. What was I saying? Okay, so I only repotted this once before. Oh, I was saying I took all the substrate off when I repotted it, and basically I mixed the substrate it was in with some of my epiphyte mix, so that, because I knew it loved that substrate it came in so much, so that it was not just totally in my epiphyte mix, and it's done great with that. Unlike some of the other Anthurium. Like I said, we'll get to that. But depending on how much I can get off of here when I get it out of the pot will determine if it's just gonna be a mix again of the two, or if it's just gonna go straight into my epiphyte mix. Now, I am gonna have some problems. I've waited too long to repot this, and because these roots are, so many of them are coming through these slats, and big ones too, I might have to trim them. I really don't want to, but they're not wanting to move. And some of them are just doubled up so tightly. There's just a good possibility it's just gonna have to happen, because I don't really want to cut this pot. All right, I'm gonna keep working at this. I'm not sure how long it's gonna take for me to try to get it out of here. And I'll catch back up with you when I do. Okay, never mind. No needing to catch back up with you when I get it out, because right after I said that, it started to come. But it is this one spot where they are crisscrossing. It is being very difficult to come through those slats. Come on now. What are you doing? Looks like we did have a little bit of a root break off, but that's not that big of a deal. All right, you're just giant and clogging things up over here. It's just this one spot that's left. It's really, there's 3 roots just kind of, like I said, crisscrossed over each other and causing a bit of a problem. There we go. Come on. It just wants to hang on to this pot for dear life. Get that last one out of there. Okay, we're out. This root got a little bit shaved by the side of the pot, but that's okay. As you can see, oh, there's a new, oh, this plant is now officially in cataphyll. Should have shown that to you before I took it out of the pot. All right, I'll hold it up for you after I repot it. It's officially in cataphyll. There's a leaf that looks like it's stuck coming in, or that could be its first flower. Actually, that probably is its first flower, because the side of the cataphyll that it's on. So that's exciting. All right, the roots all look super healthy on this. This mix is quite kind of loose on here. You know what though, I don't want to mess with the roots too much. I think I'm just gonna take it straight as is into my epiphyte mix, because this is actually in a very similar mix to my epiphyte mix, so I don't feel like not fully mixing the two is going to cause a massive problem. So we are just going to take this up to, what size is this? This is a 8-inch. So we're going from a 6-inch to an 8-inch. I'm going to take some of this that fell off and just pop it down here in the bottom. And then we'll get the plant centered in there. and start filling it back in. Now I did notice that one of the oldest leaves here is starting to die off, which is not surprising now that I saw that it is officially in cataphyll. So we'll cut that off too once we get this potted up. Just gonna put some of my substrate in the bottom here just to get it started. And get it kind of centered in here. That looks pretty good. Our dying leaf is like stuck down in there. So let's see, I think I need to put a little bit more because it's kind of, this one is pointing its leaves very down and out. It's in front of a north-facing window, but some of my other ones that are in front of north-facing windows next to it are not doing that. So I don't know why this one is doing that, but whatever, if that's what it wants to do, that's what it wants to do. All right, I think that's pretty good. So like I said, I'm gonna start filling it back in. I'm gonna give it its support stake back so it'll be more upright once we get it filled in. I feel like I am too short right now and I'm sitting on 2 cushions on a rolling chair, and I feel like I was tall enough when I sat down, and now as the cushions are depressing down, I'm feeling too short again. I gotta buy like a special stool or something for filming sitting repots in here, you guys. All right, so absolutely in love with most of my anthuriums. Well, if you saw my, or if you didn't see my recent plant purge video on plants that I'm planning on purging out of my collection this year, I do have one of my anthuriums on that list because I'm just not loving it as much as I thought. But all the ones we're going to be looking at today and all of the other ones that I own, basically, I love them. Some of them are just misbehaving a bit for me and it's frustrating me, but we're gonna figure it out. I think some of it does have to do with A, substrate, and then B, how wet they wanna be. So I'm starting to notice that a lot of anthuriums have different kind of moisture requirements. Now, if you're not familiar, some anthuriums are what are known as terrestrial anthurium, where they grow on the forest floor. A lot of them are actually climbers, which is why I've always thought it was interesting that we hardly ever see anybody showing them on like a moss pole or anything like that, because a lot of them in the wild do just climb up trees like we're used to seeing with our climbing philodendrons and other plants. And so I find, well, I think, I'll explain why I say I think in a second. I think that that's why some of them seem to want to stay more moist than others. So from that regard, I really should probably have some of them in my epiphyte mix and some of them in my forest floor mix, but I can't definitively find anything online, because I tried, you guys, tried to find definitively online a resource that said what anthuriums are actually climbers in the wild versus what anthurium are actually terrestrial. And so far, I have not been able to find a legit source or one that I really fully trusted. And so if I ever can, I will make a video for you, because I'm sure there's lots of people out there who have had that question or have that question. And that should help to figure out which ones need to be kept more on the moist side versus which ones like to be in kind of that drier state. But I'm just kind of going off of like my observations so far as to which ones are which. And interestingly enough, it is my Anthurium Red Crystal Lux, which we are not going to be repotting today, that seems to want to be kept moist more than any of the others, which is interesting because it's a luxuriance cross, and we're going to be repotting a luxuriance cross over here too that I don't feel like acts that same way. And I have 2 other luxuriance crosses that I feel like don't act that same way either. So I'm not sure what it is. Maybe it's just the addition of the red crystallinum in it. That plant, maybe that plant is more of a terrestrial one and wants to stay more on the moist side. But I mean, if that were the case, I would feel like all of the kind of ones that look similar, so including this one, would be that same way, and it's just not. So I don't know. But it's just something I've noticed, and I think that's what I need to do is like adjust my watering, and then over time, as I figure out which ones want to stay more moist, maybe try them in my forest floor mix. But also, I've just been a little bit hesitant because I've had so many people, or I've seen so many videos, so many plant influencers talk about don't use any kind of actual soil, which my forest floor mix does have soil in it, for your anthurium. They don't like it. It will cause root rot, all these other things. And I don't know how much of that is true, because I'm here to tell you right now, I know for a fact that there are people out there who use soil. I totally put this in the wrong spot. Let me try that somewhere else. That put soil type stuff, if you will, in their substrates for anthuriums and don't seem to have a problem. I mean, Doc Block's anthuriums are in a mix that's not, it's not like soilless. It may be soilless, but it has like higher moisture retaining elements than my epiphyte mix. So I don't know. And I know a lot of people use tree fern fiber, and a lot of these plants that we're repotting today came in tree fern fiber. So I'm going to share my thoughts on tree fern fiber as potting medium with you today. Spoiler alert, I'm not the biggest fan. Okay, this one is, I think, good to go. We've got it propped back up. This poor leaf or flower, not sure which is coming in. I'm gonna try to like run some water over that, or maybe wrap like a moist paper towel around it later to kind of help it loosen up without getting torn or anything. And of course, this was a very, very wet. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna wait at least 24 hours because this new mix was a little bit damp. Hopefully it will draw some of the moisture out of the other mix, and then I will water it. I just don't wanna water it right away because I don't wanna risk like a root rot situation or whatnot. And I am going to remove our dying leaf here after this as well. Okay, this one is looking good. I think I'm gonna have to move them out of the way. So 1 second. Okay, so I think up next we're going to do my Anthurium Pink Lemonade by Eastern Dresslery from Fontanimal Plant House, also bought off Palm Street. Out of my all green Anthurium, I think this one is hands down my favorite. It's definitely growing the best for me, but as you can see, we are already quite root bound in there. It is actually starting to bulge, this Starbucks cup that it is in. So we need to take it up to another pot size. Now this one is in very heavy tree fern fiber. So we're going to talk about my thoughts on tree fern fiber. But real quick before I forget, you may have noticed that the pots that I'm using today have holes in the sides. I added those holes just using my soldering iron to add a little extra aeration to them, because I did buy, I don't have any plants out in them right now. I did buy some clear pots a couple months ago, that probably almost 6 months ago now, that already had holes in them, but they don't make them in anything bigger than like a 5-inch. So I just have to make my own holes for the bigger ones. But I find that this really helps with aeration and helping to prevent root rot. Now, I don't know how the whole tree fern fiber craze with Anthurium started, as in how everybody ended up hot to trot about using tree fern fiber. I think it is partially because it does retain moisture a little bit better than just like my epiphyte mix, which is mostly a bark-based substrate. And that's not untrue, although I personally find that tree fern fiber, when it dries out, you guys, like it will look damp enough today. And then by, let's see what time, it's 2:30 right now. By 11 tomorrow morning, it will go from looking, okay, it's still damp, it can wait to be watered till tomorrow. And then like 11 a.m. tomorrow, I'll look at it and it will look bone freaking dry. And like it's been bone freaking dry for like 24 hours. And if you don't get it quick enough, you'll start to notice some yellowing on the leaves of your plants and everything. So I find it just a little bit too quick to change in moisture. But another thing that I wanted to show you, which I don't know how well you're going to be able to see, but there is a little bit of white gray fungus growing in the pot right here. I have had that happening on all of the Anthurium that I left in a tree fern mix. And in the case of this one, this has been, actually, you know what? I don't know. Okay, this one's just straight up in Fontanimal's mix because I just transferred it from a opaque pot to a clear pot so I could keep an eye on the roots. So I didn't add any of my substrate to this one. Some of them, I did a weird combination. Once again, I'll explain when we get there. But I'm not the biggest fan of the tree fern fiber. I'm just gonna be honest with you. And I was talking to Viri, who is the girl that plans all the local plant swaps where I go sell my plants locally to people. And I was talking to her about it one day, and she's not a fan either. And part of the reason she's not a fan of tree fern fiber is because she's had a really bad problem with plants getting root mealies when she uses tree fern fiber. So I thought that was interesting. I'm like, wonder if the tree fern fiber already had some like mealy eggs in it, or like how that happened, because root mealies are pretty rare, you guys. Pretty rare, unless your plants have been like outside, exposed outside. But most of the plants you're growing in your house, unless they had root mealies when you brought them home, the odds of them getting root mealies is pretty slim. Because if you guys don't know, root mealies are a completely different type of mealybug than the mealies you see on your leaves. It's not like the mealies. I hear this common misconception a lot. A lot of people think the mealies that were on the leaves somehow got down into the roots. Look it up. Root mealies are a completely different type of creature than the ones that are up on the surface of your leaves. So true root mealies, like the odds are so slim. So it kind of makes me feel like if she had that it must have just already been in the tree fern fiber, right? Now, this plant is doing absolutely fabulously. It's one of my best growing Anthurium. I'm really hesitant to switch it over to my epiphyte mix for that reason, because it's been doing so well. But there is so much gray fungus in this. Ugh, so gross, you guys. Come on, camera. You see it like right there? I don't know, I just don't trust it. And I know there is something called phytozan, I believe it is, that you can buy and you can water your plant soil with to kill that. And I know a lot of Anthurium people do that. And I'm like, well, but why are you having to do that, right? And my thought is it's because you're all using this tree fern fiber and it's causing all of this like fungal stuff in the soil. And it's, in my mind, that's bad, right? Like we shouldn't just be accepting, well, we're gonna have to use fungal stuff in our substrate. So that's why I think I want to try to get all of this off of here and move this into my epiphyte mix, because this is like straight up tree fern fiber, looks like horticultural, a very fine grade horticultural charcoal, and tiny perlite. That's literally all I think this substrate is. I don't know if the plant just throws the biggest fit ever. And I actually do see some rot on here. See, and a lot of people swear against soil substrates for rot and swear by tree fern fiber, but I totally have some rot going on in this plant. So I'm glad we're repotting it right now. I'm gonna have to get my shears out. I forgot to get them out beforehand so we can trim some of that off, but I don't know, I'm just not a fan. If you guys have more experience with tree fern fiber and with any plants, but in specifics with Anthurium, comment down below and let us know. I'm not sold. I'm not sold on it. I'm really not sold on it. All right, this is gonna take me a second to be careful enough not to tear any roots and get this off, so I will catch up with you again as soon as I get this all removed. Okay, guys, I got most of it off of there. Most of the roots still look great. As you can see, nice roots, but there is just a little bit of rot. Now, I will point out, this is not a super chunky mix that we just took off of here. And so I should probably take a second to point out that the reason for that is because these plants, when I bought them, pretty much, well, all of them were basically seedlings at the time. So for Fontanimal Plant House, that this one came from, that substrate I just took off is their seedling substrate. This is possible that the little bit of root rot I have going on here right now is because I should have moved it to a chunkier substrate that's for a more mature plant before now. So some of this is probably blame on me, but once again, I'm just not a huge fan of the tree fern fiber for this reason. I just feel like weirder things happen in the soil. Maybe it's just because I'm new to it, you know, I'm not used to it, but I don't know. My substrate has done fine for my Anthurium Silver Blush, which was the first Anthurium I ever got. Scooter, can you not get in the cabinet again, please? And so I'm just gonna stick with that. It's, you know, it's that whole if it's not broke, don't fix it thing is kind of how I feel about it right now. And thankfully, there's just not a ton of rot going on. Although I will tell you guys, in my experience, and I'm going to say this more from the Anthurium that I've had in my rare plant collection, rare plant inventory that I sell to other people, I have noticed that Anthurium roots die off a lot just in the soil. Like they don't rot, they just die and they get replaced with other roots. I just feel like this is a thing that Anthurium do more so than other plants. Has anybody else experienced that? Like, or is it just me? So I don't get overly concerned when I see just roots dying off unless it looks very much like, oh my God, it's a rot situation, because roots can just die off in your soil, you guys, and it's not a big deal. Every dead root in soil is not necessarily because of rot. Interestingly, most of the problems on this one are kind of like up in the center, which is, I don't know if y'all can hear, Scooter is in the cabinet again. Scooter. Okay, I'm gonna finish getting this trimmed up and then we'll get it potted up. Okay, you guys, I think I got most of it off of there, so I'm gonna start filling this in. It is getting severely overcast outside right now, so hopefully our lighting doesn't get crazy out of whack, because I hate it when that happens, but I also love that I have enough windows to film with natural lighting, so that's what I like to do. All right, we're gonna get this filled in. I was kind of questioning the size pot. No, this size is still good, because I had to remove a few more roots than I thought I was going to have to. But I think we'll be better off now that we're going to be in this chunkier mix. Now the real question is, can I get you? Yes, Scooter? I don't know if y'all can hear him meowing. Okay, I think I can get this down enough without feeling like I'm pressing on the roots too much and potentially going to cause a problem. Okay, so yeah, tree fern fiber, not my favorite. Now I want to talk about something else, because I have also heard a lot of things being said about coco coir that I don't agree with, and I put it to the test and basically proved it wrong. So I've also heard a lot of people saying that they don't like to use coco coir or cocoa chips in their substrates for Anthurium. For, well, the coco coir, because it keeps things too moist and ends up leading to root rot. But then I've also heard for both coco coir and cocoa chips that people say they don't want to use it because it makes your soil more acidic, and it's way too acidic, and you have to do a special treatment to get the pH of it right before you can make it safe to use for your plants. That is a load of crap, you guys. I don't know if it's just potentially the type of coco coir those people were using, but the type I use, which is linked down in my Amazon store, or linked in my Amazon, oh, let me try this again. Linked in my Amazon storefront, which the link to that is down below in every video for you guys. You can find that link, or if you follow me on Instagram, it's in my link tree on Instagram too. The one that I use, I specifically tested it recently with my pH meter after I had expanded it, because it comes in a compressed block. It's not highly acidic, as you can see. So I don't know how that got started, and I suspect maybe it's just the type that they're buying. The one that I buy is specifically for plants, so I don't know if perhaps they have already adjusted the pH, because I don't want to necessarily say that what these people were saying was 100% wrong, because maybe they did the same thing. Maybe they tested the one that they bought and it was highly acidic. So maybe it was just, once again, that what they bought wasn't specifically right for use with plants. I've also heard people say crazy things about horticultural charcoal. Horticultural charcoal is very different than regular charcoal, you guys. So from a pH standpoint, it's made to work with your substrates, with your plants safely. It's not like you're going and just grabbing charcoal from like your outdoor fire pit where you were burning wood, right? So I don't want people to get turned off of or scared away from coco coir and cocoa chips because there are people out there saying that it's highly acidic and it's going to make your substrate too acidic for your plants, because it's also super sustainable compared to peat-based soils and substrates and things like that. So just know that's not entirely true. Just be very picky about the type of coco coir that you're buying. And once again, you just saw what the pH on mine is. So that link is down below in the description for you if you want to check it out. And I buy that, like, that's the second time I bought that in my 4 years, I guess it is now, a little over 4 years of using it in my substrates, because it comes in these compressed bricks that last for freaking ever, you guys. So it's not like it's pretty cheap too. So it's not like you're like, oh my God, I'm having to break the bank and I'm gonna have to break the bank every however frequently. Unlike tree fern fiber, which is very expensive, you guys, I have bought it. Scooter's back in the cabinet again. I was using it, experimenting with it inside of poles in place of sphagnum moss. And yeah, it's not cheap. It's not cheap. It's not cheap. So there's that. But this plant is now all squared away, and I think it's going to be much happier in this substrate. Also, it had some big, chunky roots starting to come out up at the top here. And so now those are buried, so those should take off more quickly. So in this one, since we removed all the substrate, I'm going to water this right after this. But for now, I'm just going to set it aside, and I'm going to set it aside on a tray because naturally, I just cleaned my freaking kitchen right before this, so I don't want to make everything like a complete and total mess, even though you know it's going to all become a complete and total mess. Scooter, you just going to hang out in there the whole time? Is that what you're going to do? Okay, we're just going to let you do that, I guess. I just realized, you guys, I forgot to show you on this plant after I potted it up, the stuck leaf / flower. We're not sure which situation right there. And it is pretty stinking stuck. So that's why I'm saying I'm just gonna give it something moist to help kind of unstick it. Shouldn't have stood up because now it's gonna be hard for me to get back onto these cushions, because sitting on these cushions, my feet won't hit the floor, you guys. This is such an ongoing like joke, I swear. Like if you were actually here watching me film, you guys, and the setup and the teardown and the in-between stuff that you don't see, you would just laugh your ass off. I'm pretty sure you just laugh your ass off. Sometimes I just laugh my ass off at it, but I need to invest, like I said, in a better stool or chair for this. But that's gonna have to wait, because let me tell you, my life situation is crazy, and we might talk about that next. Make sure I've got enough for our next plant. Yes, which one do we want to do? Let's see. I don't want to deal with another one that I know has root issues. Do you want to do that one? Let's do this one. This is another one of my all-time favorites here, and I've been trying to get this dead leaf. Today is the day it decided it wanted to let me pull that dead leaf off. This is another one of my all-time favorites. This is another Fontanimal Plant House one. It's another Carla Blackier cross. This is my Anthurium Pink Lemonade by Carla. I am just such a fan of Carla crosses, and I did have to get out artificial light because it's getting so dark in here, you guys. So excuse the artificial light that I had to put on. I feel like it's making this look a bit more blown out than normal, but it's either that or you're not gonna be able to see the plant very well. Okay, so this is also still in the same substrate that we just looked at. I did try giving this one a sort of moss collar around the top to get the roots, encourage roots up there to grow down in. And it did just that, because look at those giant chunky roots. Those are all ones that grew down in here after I put that moss on top, and now they're coming out of the bottom there. Now, this is not the most ideal way to do a moss collar because it's just sitting on top. It dries out really fast. The more ideal way to do this is to actually have like a strip of plastic, clear plastic that's a little bit taller than this that you can wrap around the moss, because then that plastic wrapped around it helps keep it moist longer. But I mean, it still did the job. It just dries out super fast. I mean, it's totally bone dry right now. I'm gonna set it aside because I'm gonna put it back on the top of this one after we repot it. This one's not like, nah, I lie. It doesn't look as root bound to me, like just looking through the pot, as the other ones we've done. But those roots are so huge, and they're starting to bulge the edge of this pot. So, and it's still in the seedling substrate, the tree fern fiber seedling substrate, which for a seedling, you need your seedlings to stay more moist. So it makes sense, you know, to be using that. But I shouldn't be leaving them in that substrate for that long. Like, I'm pretty sure Fontanimal would have already moved this to a substrate for a more mature Anthurium. So it's a good thing we're doing that today. I didn't see, and the chunkier these roots are, the more nervous I get that by squeezing the pot to loosen it up, I'm gonna like snap a freaking root. Anybody else have this like fear, paranoia when you're doing this? I mean, worst case scenario, I don't care about this pot reusing it. This is actually a lid to a pot. that's been flipped upside down and used as a pot. If I have to trash this one, oh, that's no big deal. But those other ones, oh, I knew that was going to happen. All the roots didn't come out because they were too many of them sticking through the hole over there. But that's okay. A little bit of breakage, no big deal. No big deal. Oh, you have a little bit of rot on one of those too. Oh my goodness, I should not have left these in this seedling substrate for this long, you guys. Oy. But once again, I was planning on doing this video a long time ago and it kept getting pushed off because things are crazy, you guys. So while I'm doing this, let me, and I'm gonna get all the substrate off like we did on the last one. Let me catch you up on what's going on. So the last time I gave you guys a life update, I had filled you in on the fact that I'd been working a gap filler job that's just do it on your own time, whenever you want to, from wherever you want to, well, wherever within the US, without previous consent, basically. But it was going great, you guys. And a lot of you asked me what the company was, and I sent you a link and referred you to it, and things were going fabulously back then. And shortly after that, the project, the super steady project I had been on that I was telling you guys about, it abruptly ended out of nowhere. And I had been on that project for almost a year, and I didn't realize what had happened in the rest of the company, like how the standard practices now that were happening across the board until that project ended. And everything has been a freaking nightmare since. So the first thing I want to say is, if I referred you to this company and you went through the process of getting onboarded to work with the company, and it has been a nightmare for you, I am sincerely 100% sorry, because that had not been my experience until that project ended, which was after I aired that video and after I told all of you about the company and everything and said, yeah, sure, here's a link, go sign up. I feel so bad now. If you've all had like a horrible experience, I did not know. I did not know what was going on. I now know that everything has become, pardon my language, a shit show. And to be honest with you, when I first started with them, things were a bit redunculous. And then they went through all these drastic improvements, and then now it's like they've undone all of the improvements and somehow made things even worse than they were when I first started with the company. Not to say they were horrible, but you get what I'm saying. Like, the things that weren't great when I first started the company, they had fixed them. Then they undid them. So I was like, all right, well, we're back to standard, I guess, if you will. And then they just like somehow made all of that even worse. So I am just so frustrated. Scooter, again, oh, what's so fascinating about being in this Tupperware cabinet? So I'm just really frustrated. And now the work has been so inconsistent for the last like month or two that I am unable to fill the income gap with this job. And I had mentioned in that video where I told you about it that I was kind of worried I might need to go back to a corporate job because YouTube had kind of slowed down a bit, which is starting to pick up again, which I knew it would once we got into the growing season, but it's still not quite where it was this time last year. And so, yeah, I was already just like, oh my God, I was so frustrated. Like, my emotions have been like up and down drastically because the work has been so unstable. It's really screwed up my scheduling. Like, I had my days that I filmed for YouTube, and those were days where I didn't work that job. And it was just, I always had work available on that other project. So I could just pick when I was going to do what. And now I can't do that because I just never know when there's going to be work available. And so that's kind of what's happened this week is every day that I was going to film this video, it would be like, all of a sudden it would be like, okay, well, here there's new work to be done and I better do it now, because by the time, some days, I kid you not, you guys, I would wake up and I'd be like, there's work. I do a little work. I'm like, I'm going to take a break, film my video and come back to it. So like 3 hours later, I come back and there'd be no work to do for the next 3 days. I'm like, are you kidding me? And you don't get like good alerts about when work's going to be available. You just kind of have to like babysit your computer, which is really freaking annoying. So then it's like, well, I feel like I can't film because I need to be over here and checking this and all this other stuff. And so that's been really frustrating. So I did kind of was already thinking like, all right, I think I'm going to have to go back to just get a corporate job, because I did try to find some stuff similar to this that I could do, but everywhere I went, I was reading reviews online and it was also a complete and total shit show. More so, honestly, than this company, which is saying something. So I was just kind of like, I think I'm just going to have to bite the bullet and go back to the corporate world. And I really didn't want to. And so then Palm Street did a post saying they were looking for brand ambassadors in the Texas area to basically attend trade shows and represent them at trade shows. And since I've already done that with them in like a influencer role, I was like, well, why not? It pays, it's a flat rate. I know they're going to actually pay, right? And it's not going to be like there's a set schedule. It's not going to be a question of, is there a trade show this week or not? You know, they have them all planned out. So I applied to do that and I got that, but that's just like when there's a show. So that's not like all the time, but I was like, all right, well, maybe this will help a little bit. And so I was rerunning my numbers, you guys, and then I got the notification about my escrow for my mortgage on my house, because if you're not familiar, if you've never owned a house before, your escrow, where they've set aside the money to pay your homeowner's insurance, your taxes, all that good fun stuff, they basically estimate it. And at the end of the year, you either paid too much into your escrow and they send you a check for the overpayment, or you've underpaid and they tell you you need to pay us this much money that you owe, or they'll break up what you owe over the course of the next 12 months of your mortgage, so your mortgage will go up a little bit. Well, first house I ever owned, it just always switched back and forth from year to year. Like one year there would be an overage and I would get a check back. There is a little bit more rot than I expected on this one. Honestly, it's not as bad as the last one, but that's okay. I've almost got it all off, you guys. So it was just one year I would get a check because I paid too much, and then the next year it would be slightly under. I'm talking my mortgage would not go up more than like $40 a month, right? And then come 2020, probably around 2018, honestly, it just kept being a shortage every single year. So my mortgage kept going up a little bit every year, which also, you know, your taxes are related to the value of your home. So it's not necessarily like a horrible thing, because it also means that you're increasing your equity, because the cost or the amount you could get if you had to sell your home is going up, you know. But at a certain point, certain people can only handle so much increase on a monthly mortgage. Just like if you're renting a place, you can only handle so much rent increase per year before you're just not going to be able to pay what it's increasing to. So this has all been like okay, though. It's been in the okay range until now. And I remember last year, my homeowner's insurance went up drastically, and I shopped it around at the time, and I still had like the lowest rate, and I was just shocked. And we had some bad weather events, so, you know, there'd been a lot of claims for tornadoes and things like that. And so that's a lot of what it had to do with of why it went up. Not because I had a claim on my insurance, it's just in Texas in general, homeowners insurance across the board for all companies went up because they were having to pay out so much money on all these natural disaster situations. So I kind of expected that it was probably going to go up again a little bit this year, because we had that horrible storm in May last year that tore up the front of my house and knocked down the power lines behind my house and all that crazy stuff. So I was like, I'm not going to be surprised if it goes up again. So yeah, it went up again, you guys. It went up $500 a month on my mortgage. So the extra amount that they had to pay that I didn't have paid into escrow already worked out to $500 more a month on my mortgage. That is a huge increase. That is more than any car payment I have ever had. And I don't have a car payment right now, thank God, because if I did, it would be even worse to hear that. So I was just like so shocked. My sisters went up $800, you guys, $800. And neither of us has any kind of claim on our homeowner's insurance. So I've been trying to shop it around, but so far it looks like I still have the lowest rate I can get. But I'm like, how the heck am I going to afford $500 more right now? Because I was getting by. Like I was getting by. Perfectly getting by, right? Which is not the most ideal situation, but I was also trying to build a new business. So I just knew I was going to have to live that way for a while. But now it's like, I'm not even going to be able to just get by because this homeowner's insurance has gone up so much. So I really think I'm going to have to go back to the corporate world now. I'm highly depressed about it. I've been just like, I don't know, there's been a few days where I just have not gotten out of bed because I was just depressed because of the whole situation. And there was no work at the Gap job, and I should have just gotten my butt up and filmed a YouTube video, but I just wasn't feeling it because I was really depressed. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. I don't know how this is going to impact. I think, let me go rinse these off before I tell you guys any more, because I think I got all, oh, there's a little more of the slight rot. Wasn't bad off of here. I'm going to get this all rinsed down real quick before we start to pot it up. So 1 second. Okay, we got nice, pretty clean roots. We're just going into a 5-inch pot because I think that's this one wasn't like I said, as root bound as the others. Now, you know what? I think I need to go one size more up. Actually, I think I grabbed this one for another one of the plants. I don't know. I tried to pre-plan this out. Yeah, that looks way better, guys, in terms of space. So I think that's what we're gonna do. Okay, so this is a 5. No, what did I just say? This is a 6. Oh my gosh, you guys. Okay, we have a 6-inch. I'm here. This is my new thing that I say when I feel like my brain is all over the place right now because of everything I'm telling you. And sometimes I'm just like, what am I doing? And then I look like I'll walk into the kitchen to get something out of the fridge and I'll open the pantry and I'm like, why am I in the pantry? And my natural response is, I'm here. I'm okay. I'm here. I'm present. Like reminding myself, like, stay grounded, right? Because I just feel like my brain is all over the place. But yeah, so I don't want to sound like Debbie Downer. Like, I know some people like to comment when I tell people what's going on in my life that I'm complaining or whatever. You know what? I'm just giving you guys the lowdown. This is why I've missed a few video uploads and why this one may have gotten pushed out to a different day or a different week. That's just what's going on. And my schedule is just all over the freaking place. I'm also trying to apply for corporate jobs. I will say Palm Street had an opening that I felt like I was qualified for. And I asked them like, hey, is it all right if I apply for this? Is there a different process? Because I'm technically working for you now, even though my brand ambassador role with them is a contract position. But I was just like, is there a different process for like internal applications for people who already work for the company? Because other companies I've worked for, there was a different process. Like you didn't just go apply on the company website because you already worked there, right? And so they were like, well, just go ahead and apply and we'll just and send us your resume just via internal email and we'll give it to the hiring manager and we'll go from there. So I had an interview. I've met the hiring manager at IAS when I was there in an influencer role with them. And honestly, I've had a hard time remembering who all I met at IAS because that weekend was crazy. And half these people I see at Palm Street on Slack, because they use Slack for communication and stuff, I see their faces and I'm like, they look familiar. I probably met them at IAS, but there were so many people that like my brain can't keep it straight. There were a lot of people from Palm Street at that event. So she looked familiar. She thought I looked familiar. So I'm pretty sure we met. She was at IAS. So I'm pretty sure we met at IAS. Super nice. She's so nice. I was like, oh, she seems solid. She seems like she knows what she's doing. I have not had the best luck in my corporate career, you guys, when it comes to managers, with the exception of my very first manager, Brenda Stoner. I will say her name because the world should know. She was a fabulous manager, absolutely wonderful. Every manager I've had since then has been a whole other story. So whether it be they were just not good people, not present managers, would forget that they actually were my manager because yes, I have had that situation. Or the case of the last corporate job, the guy who had just become my manager never even introduced himself to me since he started, and then called me up one morning and told me I no longer had a job. And I'm like, you've never even talked to me before. How are you telling me? Okay, yeah. So you get where I'm going with this. So I was like, she seems really cool. So I went through and interviewed. I had to do like 2 interviews, one with the recruiting person, and then one with her. And then she gave me like a homework assignment to get a better idea of kind of how I think and stuff on things to do over the weekend. I turned that in. I hadn't heard anything, and I was in that situation of like, well, do I reply back? Do I follow up? Do I whatever? Because I don't know, I just got nervous because I hadn't even had my brand ambassador email set up with Palm Street that long. And I didn't get any kind of confirmation back from her after I had submitted the homework assignment. And before I even submitted it, the day that she gave it to me, I had replied back to her with a question about it. And that was on like a Thursday. She didn't reply on Friday. And then she wanted it by end of day Monday. And I wanted to work on it over the weekend. And so I was like, all right, well, I don't want to just like not do anything, and then she doesn't reply back on Monday, you know. So I just went ahead and did it and just said, hey, here's the assumptions that I was operating under. If that was not the correct assumption, let me know and I can redo it based on whatever the answer to my question was. And so I went ahead and I sent it, but then I never heard back from her about the question. I never heard back like confirmation, thanks for sending this. I'll get back to you within the next however many days. You know, I'm planning on making my decision, whatever. So then I started getting paranoid that something was wrong with my email. I'm sure there's other people out there who are like this, right? There's probably also other people out there watching right now who are like, y'all are crazy. Like, y'all need to just chill out. She got the email. She just hasn't gotten to it yet. But I don't know. This is just how my brain works. I'm like, my email must not be working. And I didn't want to bother her. So I reached back out to the recruiting person. I said, hey, and this was a genuinely true question. I said, hey, I forgot to ask her when I interviewed with her how quickly she was looking to make a decision, because some companies interview for months before they make a decision. And so I was trying to judge, like, should I just go ahead and hardcore into applying other places and then potentially get an offer and be like, oh, I'd rather do this job at Palm Street and I don't have an answer yet. So I just asked her, I was like, hey, just wanted to know. So then I didn't hear from that lady either for a day, probably because she was waiting to hear back from the other girl. And so like, I was getting all kinds of like nervous. And then finally the recruiting person came back and said that basically they had decided to go a different direction. And it's always can be a little bit awkward if you've applied for a job internally and you don't get it for like the hiring manager, because I've been in her shoes before where I chose not to go with somebody who already worked for the company because there was somebody more qualified or whatnot who had applied from externally, and it can be really awkward and you never know how the person who applied internally is going to react. And I just wanted to make sure that she knew I was cool. Like I was like, it's whatever, I get it. I've barely been working outside of an influencer role with this company. I think I'd been working for them like 2 or 3 weeks at that point. And so I just reached out to her on Slack and was like, hey, the lady, I don't want to necessarily use their names in case they don't want me to, but the hiring lady, not the hiring lady, keep doing that. The recruiting lady told me you decided to go a different direction. I just wanted to reach out and and say thank you again for even considering me in the first place and taking the time to, interview with me and everything like that. And I just left it at that. And she like almost immediately replied back with like a heart emoji and was like, you're so welcome. And then she was telling me, she's like, well, I'm going to have more positions that I'm going to be over the next 6 months that I'm going to be hiring for. So just keep an eye out. If there's anything you're interested in, just let me know. So I genuinely hope that means she actually is like, I can see value in having her on my team. I just don't think this was the right role for her. Or once again, maybe she just found somebody who was better qualified. So that didn't pan out. Like I really wanted it to pan out because I was like, it would be so nice if for once in my life, a career shift wasn't a nightmare, because the other thing is I really like Palm Street's culture so far. Somebody I know, I don't remember if I told you guys this or not, but somebody I know that works there left, and I don't know that it wasn't necessarily on the best terms, and I don't have the full story. So I have that in the back of my brain as like possible red flag, but compared to the companies I have worked for and the horrible cultures of the companies I have worked for, it can't be that bad as those companies, you guys. All right, looking stunning in the new pot. Once again, I will water this after this because I had to remove all of the wet substrate. Let me put it back here. And I will say that plant, so once again, the Carla plant, so the first Anthurium that we did and the last one that we did, honestly are growing the best for me out of my velvet leafed Anthuriums that have silver veins. The other one we did, I'm here, Anthurium Pink Lemonade by Eastern Dress, that doesn't have the silver veins, but it's also velvety leafed. That one is also doing fabulously for me. It's my non-velvety leafed ones that are giving me the most problems, with the exception of my Anthurium radicans by Luxurians. That one's fabulous too. But okay, I think we're going to do this little guy next. So this is my only plant that involves dock block crosses, and it has a new leaf it's putting out right now. Look at that. New leaf coming in. I will say the emergence on this one are not like the most fabulous looking thing, but I just love the actual leaves. Now this is just a little seedling. It is killing off its oldest leaves, which I need to cut off anyway, because when a plant is this young, you guys, you kind of want to periodically cut off for Anthuriums the lower leaves here because the new roots are going to come out. You might be able to see that one starting right there. They would come out up here, and if there's a leaf below them, it kind of like deters the growth. It also kind of physically blocks it. So for seedlings, if you want them to mature and size up pretty quickly, you want to occasionally remove those lower leaves. And since these ones are kind of starting to do it themselves anyway, I am going to remove them. Now, this is a Anthurium Black Widow by Michelle by Brielle by Red Crystal. So the only thing in there that's not a dock block plant is the red crystal part. I did get this on Palm Street as well from Anthurium Papa. Love Anthurium Papa. One of the things I always tell you guys, like, I love that he just spends like the first part of his lives answering care questions and stuff for people. Super helpful. That's how I found out about the fungal stuff that you can use to water the soil to kill the fungus that's growing down in the soil, was from him. Another thing I absolutely love about him is we do not see eye to eye on everything. Although the one thing that we kind of debated on heavily, turns out and I thought this might be the case. I didn't understand. I kept trying to get clarification on what he was saying, but I was like, I think he's misunderstanding me, or I'm misunderstanding what he's saying, or both. Turns out a lot of it was misunderstanding. We actually do agree on the topic, which had to do with naming of Anthurium, and should you like change the name or make up names, or I don't know. Anyway, Anthurium naming is complicated because a lot of people will say, okay, I'm going to call this plant like this because they created a hybrid, but then you lose what the hybrid was made of. But a lot of people will still disclose the parents of the plants. Oh, before I take this out, just so you can see, definitely super, super root bound. This was the smallest seedling Anthurium that I'd gotten out of all the Anthuriums. This was the smallest when I got it from him. And anyways, so we just had this debate about names. Turns out we actually, and I don't even think I ever fully clarified this with him, we are actually pretty much on the same page as far as the name things go. But with our back and forth, I think for me, it didn't feel super argumentative, but I've been told that sometimes for me when I'm like trying, because I just genuinely wanted to make sure we were on the same page. But I've been told by other people, they're like, yeah, you're the only person who thinks that that doesn't sound argumentative and just sounds like a fact-gathering mission. And so people have pointed out to me that even though to me it seems like normal, we're just discussing this, I'm not trying to like combat what you're saying, I'm just trying to make sure I understand. Most people view it more as a debate and a slightly confrontational thing, even though I'm always like polite about it. So I think he took it that way as well. This is in his tree fern fiber mix, by the way, which is very similar to Fontanimals. And since we saw what happened when I left those in that for too long, we're definitely removing this all off of here. So yeah, I think for me, it wasn't argument, or I wasn't intending for it to be like argumentative or debative or anything like that. I could definitely tell, I think he felt that way. But what was nice was, even though I still felt like at the end of the conversation that day, I wasn't sure that we weren't on the same page. He felt like we weren't on the same page. But regardless, like the whole thing, it wasn't like, I'm going to block you on Instagram, or I don't want you part of my community, my Anthurium community. There was nothing like that. And this was right after the election. Well, I guess not right after was it right after? Oh, no. I think it might have been right after the changeover, right after Trump was sworn in. And so there was just a lot of mean, nasty debating going on in the world. And it was like everywhere I would turn on social media, people were debating things to do with the presidency and all this stuff. And people were just getting mean about it and like canceling each other. And it was crazy. So it was just really nice, though, that at the end of the day, like neither of us felt that way, like felt like the other person was just like, oh my God, what is wrong with you? Like block or anything like that. It was like we just had a nice, friendly debate and discussion. And I honestly kind of felt like people weren't capable of doing that anymore at that point. So it was very refreshing. And then a few days later, I figured out, based on a follow-up post he had done about the same topic, that we actually were on the same page. The way he was phrasing things, I was understanding his phrasing to mean, like it could have meant two things. And you know how like sometimes when you say something in your brain, you know what it means and you don't think about the fact that it could be taken another way. It was one of those situations where I don't think he ever would have thought about it being interpreted the way I did, because it's usually not interpreted that way by people who've been in the Anthurium community for a super, super long time, which I have not been in the Anthurium community. I mean, we'll say I've been in for a year now, right? So in my brain, I was just thinking about it a different way. And I have a tendency to think about things different ways anyways, you guys. It's one of the reasons that I used to do so well in some of these special testing things when I was a kid, because they were looking for people who thought outside the box differently than normal people. But I have discovered as an adult that it's a pain in the ass sometimes when you're that kind of person, because then everybody else is like, what are you talking about? Why would you have interpreted it that way? And I'm like, because, and I lay out my case and they're like, oh, I would have never thought about that, but yeah, you're right, that totally makes sense. And I think this was one of those situations. So I'm just glad though that he's totally cool about it, and because I needed that. At that point, I was just terrified because everybody was getting so mad over politics with each other on every argument. Just felt like it was a "I'm done with you" argument at that point in time, and I was just like, I don't want to get in an argument with anybody, so because I'm afraid that's what's going to happen. So it was great that it just ended. Like, it was cool. Like, we had a debate. We can agree not to agree, even though it turns out we do agree. This is coming off much easier off of this plant. I do not see any signs of rot. This is making me super happy. I will get back to the job thing here in a second, you guys. And if I do seem a little bit all over the place today, well, now that I've told you what's going on, hopefully you understand why. I am also realizing I totally wanted to do this one last, and I remember now why I wanted to do it last. Because I think I want to use the container, the pot that the other plant that we need to repot is in. I think I want to use that one for this plant, so I needed to do that one first so I could wash it out and it would be ready. But right now, let me go rinse the rest of this off of this. Well, you guys, this is like the perfect, what's the word? Metaphor, analogy, comparison to my life right now. In the process of rinsing those roots off, I accidentally snapped off the new leaf that was coming in. Like, I was so happy there was no root rot. It was putting out a new leaf. I'm like, okay, here we go. All right, let me see here. Yeah, I want to use this. So I want to use this pot is like going to be, I think, the perfect size for this compared to what it was in. Ooh, the sun's coming back out, yay. Because that's not like a huge size up. So I'm going to set this one aside for a second so we can get this other one out. Try not to break any more leaves off. Oh my goodness. This is like, this whole cushions on the chair thing is crazy. Okay, this is also from Fontanimal Plant House. Giving me new leaves since I got it, but the last two that had come in for whatever reason have done this nonsense, and now it's killing off its oldest ones, and I think that's because I'm seeing rot in here. And this one is in, I think, this one is in a combination of my epiphyte mix and Fontanimal's seedling mix that we took off of those other plants, which once again makes me feel like the tree fern fiber is the problem. I don't know. I don't know. But this is an Anthurium luxurians by Long Long Bullet. This leaf is also looking a little bit pale. I wanted it to not look pale because it's the best looking leaf in terms of not being torn and whatnot, but I don't know. Let's just get this out and clean it up. I also think, once again, some of these, or most of these, are not in pots with the holes in the side, so I think the not having aeration thing, going from that to having the holes, is going to help avoid root rot situations as well. I don't know why. I just feel like Anthurium, the way people talk about Anthurium, that they're more prone to root rot naturally than other plants. I don't know. I just feel like I just hear people talk about it more. Maybe I'm wrong. Oh yeah, that's rot. And there is some funky mold in the soil again too. Yep, not a fan of the tree fern fiber. All right, we're gonna get all this off. I'm gonna clean up these roots. We're gonna pot this up. I'm gonna clean out that pot, and we're gonna use it for our one plant that doesn't have rot, because I don't know, I just did better, I guess, with that plant. Okay, so back to the job situation. So I did not get that job. I have applied to a few other full-time positions. Oh, like the whole center is like funky rotted. Guys, can you see that? Like that's all dark, funky rotted. The outer roots that are from the new roots that have grown from up here at the top are good, but the inside is just complete, ugh. That's so weird. Like the whole root ball from when I repotted it is rotted. Although it almost doesn't look like, it almost looks like what I was telling you about what I've noticed in my rare plant inventory, where sometimes like the older roots just like die off, but they're not actually rotted. But I am seeing some rot now on the newer roots, so I'm thinking this is actually rot in the center and it's spread to the other ones. Okay, yeah, me and tree fern fiber, we're done. We are done. So did apply for a few more jobs. Haven't heard anything back. I told you guys in that video where I talked about possibly having to go back to doing a corporate job in the first place, or worried about it, that I didn't necessarily want to go back into marketing. I don't like today's marketing. I was trying to explain this to a friend of mine last night. I had some friends, Chris and Megan, who I rescued their plants recently at their home while they were on vacation. They came over for a game night and I was trying to explain to them. I was like, I am so like over marketing in the modern day, and Megan does marketing too, because like everything has to be so short and sweet and simple and to the point, because half of the marketing now is done on social media. And I remember when I first finished my undergrad degree and started working in the real world in marketing, digital marketing was just becoming like a thing, right? And so everything was still mostly print and commercial. And when you have messaging you want to get across, your messaging can be much longer in print, like a magazine ad or a commercial or a billboard or whatever it may be, than on a little tiny square on a screen. And I remember back then I hated, anytime I had to do digital ads, I hated it because I am not a short person when it comes to discussing things. In case you guys haven't noticed, that's why all my care guides are complete care guides, because I didn't want anybody to have to do what I did when I got into plants, which was watch 1,000 different YouTube videos to try to find the answers to all my care questions. I wanted them all available in one video. So that's why I create truly complete care guides. And I know some people comment, don't like it, say they're too long. Oh well, other people appreciate it because they can watch one video and be done. And that is kind of how I am. Like, so I want to get like all the messaging that I know would make you buy a product, that I know would be good for you, that I know you would love if you would actually buy it. I want to tell you everything I think you might want to know in order to get you to actually buy it. And trying to do that in this day and age on like a tiny little screen in a tiny little square or rectangle is impossible. Like, I hate it. And you're held to such high standards as to, are you doing your job well based on how many clicks does it get? How many people did it actually convert? And it's like, what the words I could put for one of you out there right now watching, you'd be like, oh, hell yeah, I want that. The person watching next to you, I'm just envisioning like if I was seeing y'all in a Zoom call or something, the person watching next to you might be like, I don't care about that. But something else that I wanted to put on there, but I couldn't because I couldn't just cram everything in this tiny square, the other person would have read that and been like, oh, hell yeah, I want to buy that. And the first person, if they had read that one, would have been like, I'm not interested. So it just really frustrates me this day and age. I just don't like it. I don't like it. I actually think influencers pushing products is kind of the way to go. But then also that's becoming so saturated. I said so weird. I don't know why I said that weird, but that's becoming such a bigger thing than it used to be with influencers promoting brands. And I feel like the skepticism on whether they actually like the products is growing with the amount that it's being done. When it wasn't being done a lot, I feel like people trusted influencers more when they said, yeah, I really love this. But now half the influencer posts and things you see, especially on Instagram, they look like ads. They don't look like just an influencer being like, hey, I really like this product. You know what I mean? So I feel like even that is becoming less of a viable option. Palm Street did at the time that I applied for that job I was telling you about. They had a listing listed for a marketing person on the influencer side. And I was like, well, that'd be great for me because now I've done it on both sides, right? I've done it on the side of let me find an influencer to promote this product. And now I've done it on the side of I'm the influencer promoting this product, right? But then for whatever reason, when I first talked to that was when I was interviewing for the brand ambassador position. I saw that they had that position and it wasn't a full-time position, but it paid well. And it was like the amount of hours that I was doing at the other Gap income filler job. So I was like, well, maybe I'll just replace that with this. And then when I reached out, or when the recruiting lady reached out, originally her email said she was reaching out to schedule an interview for that job, not the brand ambassador role. And then 30 minutes later, I got an email saying that they were going in a different direction for the influencer role. And I was so confused. So I asked her on the call, and I think she just messed up in what she put on the email subject line. And she goes, oh, well, we decided we're not hiring that position right now. So I don't know when they are going to hire it. It would be great to be in that position. But anyways, so I don't know. That's why I'm kind of like, I just don't want to do something marketing. So the job I actually applied or did the interviews and everything for that I was telling you about a second ago at Palm Street, the full-time job, was not actually a marketing role, which is probably why I didn't get it, honestly. But it's not far off from things I've done in my marketing roles. And I felt like I made that pretty clear to her, like how my other roles in the past would make me qualified to do that role, but maybe I didn't do the best job of that. I don't know, you guys. Oh my God, so much rot. All right, I'm gonna finish cleaning this up and we'll catch back up. Okay, you guys, I went ahead and cleaned out the pot from that one for our other one. So I'm gonna pot that up first since it's just been hanging out over here with its roots, like getting dry. Oh, actually, I take that back. I gotta mix up a little more substrate first. Okay, I think we're good to go now. So anyways, that's what's going on. Not entirely happy about the situation, but just bear with me with the upload schedule and video schedule and everything for now, since my schedule in general is just a nightmare. And if anybody has any leads on any jobs that you know that I would be qualified for, by all means, please let me know. But getting back to the plants, are you gonna fit in here? I think I'm gonna need a little less in the bottom. Okay. So back to the plants. I am happy that we are repotting this one, especially right now, because what have we learned today? Well, let me tell you what we've learned today, besides the fact that I'm not a fan of tree fern fiber. What we have learned today is don't let your Anthurium remain in their seedling mixture for too long, because I think that's a large part of why I ended up with rot in some of these, because I just left it in that mixture, which is intended to stay moist longer, because that's what you need when you're trying to develop initial roots for a seedling. You just can't leave it in it for too long because it's going to start to cause a problem. And on any plant, it can do that, but I feel like it's just a little bit more prone to it on Anthurium, probably because they get these giant chunky roots once they start to mature. So don't put it off as long as I did. But hopefully everybody will make a full recovery and be happy. Nobody's going into a drastically bigger pot or anything like that. So we shouldn't have to worry about it being like too much substrate to root ratio, staying moist for too long or anything like that. This is more well draining. This mix is more well draining than what they were in before. And now we have also the holes in the pots. I forgot I needed to poke holes in this pot. You guys. All right, what I'm gonna do after this, very carefully, because the roots are all in the center of this, and my soldering iron, it's just like this much of the tip of it is what creates the hole. So I'm gonna very carefully poke some holes in this after this without hitting the roots. I knew I was forgetting something. Did all the other ones beforehand, but I couldn't do this one because we had a plant in it already, but that's okay. Well, it'll be fine. I mean, it'd probably be fine in here anyways without me adding holes to it. If I'm being honest, it's just kind of an extra layer of aeration that may not even be entirely necessary now that it's in a chunkier mix. So I don't know, maybe I won't do it. We'll see. I'm just kind of mad at myself for forgetting I needed to do it. Okay, a little bit more over here. And I think she is good. Okay, so now we just need to get this one, which honestly had probably the worst, well, it did have the worst rot situation. Make sure I got everything off. Okay, we still have like a decent number of roots, but all the finer roots from when it was a seedling that were in the middle are just, they're toast. They're gone. They're gone. They're not there anymore. It's okay. Maybe this plant will grow better for me now. I tell you guys. And I never had problems at all on my silver blush with root rot. Like I've only repotted it twice. Yeah, I think, because it was an import, so it was in water when I first got it, and then I potted it into my epiphyte mix. And then probably maybe around this time last year is when I up-potted it. Also in my epiphyte mix, I've never had a problem with that plant. So that's another reason why I'm saying I feel like a lot of this rot situation that I'm seeing today is related to the tree fern fiber and the fact that a lot of these were in seedling mix, which this one had seedling mix in the center because apparently I didn't. That was another place I went wrong on this one. For some reason, I didn't remove all the substrate on this one and mix it in with like my substrate or more of the seedling mix when I repotted it. I don't know why. I don't know what was going on in my head or my life at that point, but that's a large part of probably what happened with this one. So don't mix tree fern fiber. Like if you have a plant already in tree fern fiber, don't leave it in tree fern fiber and put it into a different mix, especially if it's an airier mix that dries out more quickly, because there's a possibility that that tree fern fiber was just staying more moist than I thought it was in the center of this plant. But it'll be okay. I find that if it's gonna rot when they're younger and the roots are thinner like this, that's the better time for it to rot. When they get big old chonky, like almost like carrot looking roots and they rot, so that's when things go like really bad. Like it's hard for them to recover when roots that big rot, at least in my personal experience. The finer roots, it seems to be easier to come back from. So it'll all be okay. Probably could have put a little bit more in the bottom of this, but it's all right. It's all right. I really love the way this one looks too. I just wish it wouldn't give me these torn leaves. And we aren't repotting, this is the last one we're gonna do today, but we aren't repotting my Red Lux, but that one, same thing. Like every leaf that comes out, it's putting out huge leaves now, you guys, but it's all janky and torn like this one. And it's just so upsetting. I'm like, it's like, and it came in fine. That, I guess this one kind of got torn when it was unfurling. That's why they have like that kind of weird shape there. But on the Red Crystal Lux, like it came out fine. It uncurled fine. It's just like it's growing faster than it can keep up with and the leaves tearing as it grows. It's just growing too quick for its own good, I suppose. Okay, so just a reminder, the only one of these I'm not gonna water since we took all the substrate off is the first one we did, because we didn't take all the substrate off of that one because it wasn't in seedling substrate. And now I'm worried though, because I left the substrate that was on it had tree fern fiber in it, and we put it in substrate that doesn't, but it only had like barely any tree fern fiber in it. So I think it'll be okay, but I'm gonna keep an extra close eye on that one. If I see anything starting to go wonky, it's getting taken out and all of that substrate's getting removed. All right, there we are. I will remove this leaf that's dying, but I need to sterilize my shears before I go doing that now that I've been cutting off, maybe a little more over here, cutting off all that root rot. So, all right, you guys. Well, other than that, the anthuriums are actually doing pretty good, especially considering they were all tiny little seedlings when I got them. So I am just super excited that we don't have massive problems going on with them. And now that they're starting to pick up in growth and push off new leaves again, that hopefully I won't accidentally keep breaking off like I did on that one. I'm so upset, I'm telling you guys. It's like an emotional roller coaster with everything right now. Up and down, up and down, up and down. All right, so as far as the channel goes, you guys, I just, like I said, just bear with me. I don't know what things are gonna look like. I'm gonna try to stay on a schedule, the same schedule. I just don't know. And it's so weird because it's like right now I feel like I need to do things that make money right now. YouTube, I get paid a month later for things I'm doing right now, and I never know how much it's gonna be until like the end of the month. And so, and even then it's just an estimate. Sometimes it's less, sometimes it's more. It's very bizarre. And at the end of the day, when I look at how much I make on YouTube each month and I work it out to how much time I spend doing these videos, like the hourly rate that I'm making on YouTube is pretty crappy. So I hope you guys understand where I'm coming from when I say I need to, like right now this week, I was like, I just got to focus on doing things that are making me money, like that's going to hit my bank account before the end of the month, because I got to pay $500 extra more dollars on my mortgage by the 1st. So if I do get a new, hopefully when I guess I should say, a new corporate job, we'll just have to see what happens. The good news is like it will be a set schedule. I'll have weekends off. So hopefully maybe it'll make it a little bit easier, because right now it's just like all over the place as to when I'm going to be able to film and whatnot. But I will do my best to maintain the schedule. I will definitely keep you guys updated as to what's going on or if anything's going to change. I mean, worst case scenario would be maybe if I had to go back to doing cut back to doing like one video every 2 weeks. But I had a corporate job before and I was able to do one a week. But that job really didn't require crazy much going on. So like, I just felt like, I don't know what it's going to look like. If it's going to be a job where I'm just exhausted from it, like, you know what I mean? I don't want to be like on camera being like, oh my God, it's so obvious that I'm falling asleep and like, but I got to film this video. You guys are gonna be like, God, this video is awful. So I just got to figure it out. I hope that makes sense. And thank you for hanging out with me today and repotting these Anthurium and listening to me. Hopefully not what sounded like complain, but hopefully just giving you an update. I'm sure there's some of you out there who are going through the same thing right now with the insane insurance increases. So I hope yours wasn't as bad as mine. And if it was as bad as mine, I hope you're not having your life turned upside down from it either. And if you are, comment down below, we can commiserate together. But other than that, thanks for joining me today, you guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. If so, please be sure to click that like and or subscribe button down below. And I look forward to seeing you again next time. Aloha!